Welcome all to the March 27th zoning hearing. May we please get a roll call?
Vice Mayor Baxter.
Here.
Commissioner Flores.
Present.
Mayor Marino.
Here.
Commissioner Powell.
Here.
Commissioner Sachs.
Here.
Commissioner Weiss.
Here.
Commissioner Woodward.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've asked Commissioner Weiss to lead us in the invocation and the pledge.
Please rise if you're able. We ask you, God, to bless this meeting of people who earnestly desire to do their work in the best possible way, to benefit those we serve, and to leave our children a better world. Please give us the wisdom and vision to plan adequately and act correctly to achieve these ends. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty. Do we have notice
Yes, we do.
and proof of publication?
Yes, we do.
Okay, swearing in.
Would you like a motion to receive
I will have someone make a motion to receive and file, please. Thank you. Commissioner Woodward, Commissioner Weiss, all in favor? All opposed? See that that motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Our attorney, swearing in, please.
All those wishing to testify on today's quasi-judicial items, please rise and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any additions, deletions, or substitutions?
Yes, we do have a few modifications to our agenda, starting with C2 DOA 2024-1418 Harbor Chase at Wellington. There's a request to modify the development order amendment condition, landscape general, where we have struck out and underlined new language. Item 3 CA 2023-01161 Olympic Behavioral Health, modifying the staff report under adequate public facilities to delete language incorrectly added. Under D, other county division items, workforce housing program exchange, modification to amend the agenda to relocate that item to the regular agenda. On the regular agenda, under B6, Loxahatchee Estates overlay first reading, modifying the agenda as it relates to BCC permission to advertise, to strike out the publication of the business impact analysis, amend modification for ULDC revision to Exhibit 1E uses, 1 government services, struck out and underlined. And then on item number 7, affordable housing program parking waiver, correcting the agenda as it relates to the BCC permission to advertise to include the publication of the business impact estimate.
Thank you. May I get a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
Second.
I have a first from the Vice Mayor, a second from Commissioner Woodward. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? See, the motion carries 7-0. Is there anyone that would like to pull anything from consent?
Yes. I'd like to pull item 4 to the regular agenda.
Okay, so we will pull that, and we will hear that as soon as we approve the consent agenda minus item number 4. May I get a motion, please?
So moved.
A motion from the Vice Mayor, a second from Commissioner Woodward. All in favor? Oh, I am sorry. We do need disclosures for consent agenda items.
Minus 4.
Minus item 4, we'll hear that when we hear the regular agenda. Commissioner Flores, any disclosure on item 2 or 3?
No.
Commissioner Sachs? None. Commissioner Woodward?
No disclosures?
Commissioner Powell?
None at this time, Mayor.
Commissioner Weiss?
Yes, on item number 3, Olympic Behavioral Health, my staff had a phone call with Jeffrey Lynn.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Thanks. Thank you, Mayor. On consent agenda item number 2, emails have been received and filed with the clerk, written communication from Joni Brinkman, and verbal communication with Ken Tuma. No site visit. Number 3, no, and to number 5, no disclosures.
Thank you, and I have no disclosures for items number 2 and 3. So now that we've got disclosures out of the way, did we make a motion to approve? And we had a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? See that that motion carries. We are now going to hear item number 4. Commissioner Flores and Commissioner Woodward, would you like a presentation? Okay.
For item number 4, Trails Landing, we'll go to the applicant first if they're here to do a presentation, and if then we have a staff presentation.
Yes. Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioner. Twee Shutt for the record from the Planning Division.
Twee, we can't really hear you. Can you?
Yeah, I can speak. Can you hear me now? I can speak
Twee,
louder.
the agent goes first. The agent goes first.
Yes, I just
Okay.
want to make sure, I just want to call out. The agent is represented by Mr. Willie Laurel. He's here? So I just want to make sure.
This is for item number 4.
Yeah.
5 with 4.
This is for item number
so
4,
sorry.
please. This is Trails End.
Yes.
Mr. Herring, how are you?
I am well. Good morning, Commissioners, Madam Mayor. For the record, Donaldson Hearing here today on behalf of the applicant. This is a request to modify the condition of approval to provide for a payment in lieu of constructing the workforce housing units on site. The subject property is relatively small, as you can see on the screen, a very, very long linear configuration. So it does have some constraints, and there were some fairly significant cost factors related to engineering, which had to be redone, and relocation of utility poles that really have impacted the overall cost structure for the project. So the applicant is requesting the ability to do payment in lieu for 2 units. We are more than willing to pay the new fee that is proposed. So we're not sure, we don't necessarily need to sneak underneath the wire on the old fee. So we're willing to pay the full fee, and just would request your approval. It's a good project, but there are, there are costs and there are limitations, and I know the zoning division is looking at some potential modifications to some of the planning regulations dealing with how townhouses are planned, which will hopefully help in the future. And we've discussed that with Lisa. It's not applicable to this site at this particular point, but had those regulations been in place, it would have certainly been more fruitful for this request. So we'd request your approval, and again, we're more than happy to pay the current proposed rate for workforce housing. We do think that, I think your staff will tell you construction costs are probably at an all-time high, and have impacted the overall development. With that, I'd certainly be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you. The reason I was second to pull this behind Commissioner Flores was for that reason, to make sure that if we were going to vote on this, that the numbers were updated to the current formula that we're using, which is another discussion we have to have on a different day. But you're saying that the applicant
Yes, ma'am. That's absolutely fair, and we are in support of that.
Okay, that was my question. So, Commissioner Flores.
Commissioner Flores.
Good morning, Mr. Herring. Is staff not going to do anything?
If you'd like, we have a short, brief presentation.
I would like that. I would like
Okay.
the whole shebang.
Yes, I apologize. Again, Twee Shutt for the record. We have Travis Goodson here to do, he has 4 slides to explain the situation and some recommended conditions of approval if the board chooses to accept Mr. Herring's, offer.
Good morning. Commissioner, did you wish to have a presentation on the full zoning side of what the application is first?
Yeah, just walk me through it, please.
The site is very thin, as you can see on the screen. There is no change to the approved site plan. It's located on the east side of Military Trail, south of Lantana Road. And if you go to, because I don't have the clicker, thanks, Travis. Here's the site plan. It's long and skinny. As Mr. Herring mentioned, the current code makes it difficult for townhome development, so this is being developed as multifamily, even though, and if they are sold, they would be condos. So there's the site plan there, and I don't think that's 100% to scale because the site is so long and thin. There's no changes to the proposed density from the prior approval, and the next slides are for Travis to explain the workforce housing component. Workforce housing is under Article 5G of the ULDC, and that is under the interpretation of the planning director.
So again, for the record, Travis Goodson with the Planning Division. So briefly over the workforce side of it, this project was originally approved by the Board of County Commissioners in January of 2019. They are 35 multifamily units, 31 by land use, 4 workforce bonus units, and that math equals to 2 required workforce housing units. And so at the time, the applicant had chosen to provide the 2 required workforce housing units as on-site. The request before you through the zoning division is an expedited application consideration to modify conditions of approval. They have conditions of approval, 2 of them related to providing the on-site workforce housing. So the request is to come before you to modify those conditions so that they can provide an in lieu fee. As nothing is changing on the site plan and it's a condition change, they are falling under the 2019 workforce housing code provisions at a set price of $81,500 per unit. And currently the fee is based upon the product type, single family, townhome, or multifamily. And so we put together a quick table to show the differences between the two for pricing, and the other big piece to it is the payment. Prior to the 2019 workforce code changes, the applicant had to pay that fee at first building permit. Currently, it is at prior to issuance of 50% of the building permits. And so depending on which action the board would like to take, if was the older code to modify the conditions, they would be modified accordingly to reflect the in lieu fee disposition depending upon when they originally came in versus when the payment fee schedule that's in effect at this time. And then certainly the other option is the board not approve the EAC. And that's all I have to say.
Additional questions?
No, I want to keep that. Can we keep the last slide on there?
This one.
So the in lieu fee would be $178,000
Correct.
for the 2?
For the 2 units combined, yes.
If, Mr. Herring, can I ask you a couple of questions?
Yes, sir.
What are going to be the market value, or what are you going to sell this at?
I don't have the exact number of what they are going to be selling at. I would imagine, just based on market, they're in the, mid threes, or what we've generally been seeing townhouses, to, up to about $400,000. So that's where we see the market today.
Okay. The reason I'm bringing this up is because I've spoken about this in lieu fee, and I am not a fan of it. And the reason I'm not a fan of it is because it's a bailout, and it works against a program that we have in place to bring more workforce housing units to the market. With $178,000, we can't do anything. It's very little what we can do with $178,000, much less try to build 1 unit. I have a hard time with the in lieu fee, and Mr. Herring, I apologize that it's you that's before me today, but I have to, and I will continue to harp on this. I am against the in lieu fee. We gave this project 4 units as a bonus for density. And what they're saying today to us is that they can't give us 2 workforce housing units. This is not affordable, folks. This is workforce housing. I am not a fan of the in-lieu fee. I'm not a huge fan either of the exchange program. And what was told to me before from this board was that we weren't approving these type of in-lieu payments. But yet we're accepting one today. By the way, I think it's a great project. I like the infill component of this project. I just have a hard time with the in-lieu fee. I would like our board to reconsider and make a hard stance on this, but that's just my humble opinion.
Thank you. Commissioner Sacks, your light is on.
I agree with Commissioner Flores that we need housing, we need workforce housing. And again, I apologize. This should have been handled way before this comes on the consent agenda, especially. I put you in a difficult situation, sir. But you were given certain concessions that there would be at least workforce housing there. There isn't. And unfortunately, the way we are building housing today, we just approved motel rooms for a lot more. So we can't afford it, is what it comes down to. And the folks, our residents, can't afford to get into many of our beautiful townhouses. So unfortunately, I could never approve it with that condition on it. And I apologize, sir.
We understand, Commissioner Sacks. We just would ask that it be considered. This does increase the housing supply, and because of its long linear configuration, and the fact that, as the zoning director pointed out, that we have to do this as multifamily as opposed to fee simple. There are limitations for us that do impact our ability to offset those costs to provide it. And that's, so there are 2 units, and some could, in this particular case, could make the argument that these 2 units aggregated somewhere else where they could be managed more effectively as a part of a larger pool makes some sense. But we appreciate your perspective, and Commissioner Flores, thank you very much for your comments as well.
Thank you, sir. And this would be a great location for workforce housing, especially with the other units being multifamily. I could see beautifully to put in a couple of units there for workforce. And then, as many of them are, if you have them up to the same standard, then you can always put them retail once that issue is completed. But at this point, sir, we need the housing. Thank you.
Commissioner Woodward, and then Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Commissioner Flores, for some of your questions, because it brought up some of my discussion yesterday as well. Something I forgot to ask, and I think Twee may be the one to answer this. When we do the exchange program, there's a dollar amount that goes with that as well, right? If they're going to do a build, then the cost. What is the price on that?
Sorry, that's really an exchange. If there is you're talking about the ratio 1 to.
No, there's usually a dollar amount that goes.
Yes.
That's tied to that. What is it?
And that, I'm sorry, 80%.
Can I have that in dollars?
80% of the 89. 80% of the 89,145
is what the exchange builder
When the exchange builder
receives.
Yes.
So this is actually, they would be paying more as using the in lieu than they would in an exchange.
Yes.
Am I understanding that right? Okay, which is, again, future discussion we need to have on some of that.
And that will come back in June when we're looking at potential changes to the workforce housing program.
And the reason, because, you asked about what the cost of these would be. Right now, what is the workforce housing for sale rate for a similar product? That it's a townhome, how many bedrooms is it? If we do up to, because we right now would approve up to 120% is considered workforce housing for sale. What's the cost on that unit?
On the market,
No, 120% AMI.
Oh, okay. Hang on for a second. Sorry.
Because I kind of understood this is the numbers that they are expecting to sell these at are pretty close to what we would consider 120% AMI.
You're asking the maximum cost if it was a workforce for sale product? The maximum would be $405,000.
So that, because I am with you, I am not a fan of the in lieu fee, but because these units were market rate already under what we are considering workforce housing with 120% AMI, we're effectively getting workforce units. They're just not restricted. And we're not having to pay for these. We're not having to do any bond money on this. So again, not a fan of the in lieu, but in this case, I would go for it just because of what you're building pretty much gets us close to what we already consider 120% AMI, and we are not having to subsidize it other than giving you a density bonus and then, receiving the in lieu fee. So with all of that being put into place, you're not selling multi-million-dollar townhomes and coming to us saying, I don't want to do this. So with that regard, for this specific project, which is why we should look at these on a case-by-case basis, I appreciate the price point that you're putting on these where you're building it. So with that, I would make a motion to approve with the new numbers, with the current numbers.
I have a motion from Commissioner Woodward, a second from Commissioner Weiss. Patrick, you had your light on and then turned it off.
Just not to, Travis is correct about the price. I just wanted to clarify a little bit of a nuance. In the code that was adopted in 2019, we did eliminate that top tier, that middle tier. So our maximum on sales prices only applies to 3 categories, the maximum which is $343,000. So a project coming in today, doing for sale, that would be the top tier point.
Thank you.
343.
Commissioner Weiss.
Yeah, thank you. And I appreciate what my colleagues have to say, and I agree on the in lieu fee in general, but in this case, based on also supporting what Commissioner Woodward said, this is in fact workforce housing by fact it is. And so in this case, I will accept it that those funds can be used for down payment assistance. That's where those funds go. And that will help some families be able to move in there and have an affordable place, affordable workforce housing in Palm Beach County. So I'll be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to confirm with staff, the only thing changing in the condition is the dollar amount, correct?
No, there are some changes to condition 3 as well we'd like to put into record.
I think what Scott is asking, based on the motion on the table, the only change to the screen items would be related to the fee. That's what you're asking, correct, Scott?
Right. The only thing that's changing from the staff report condition is the total dollar amount.
There's a modification to condition 3 in the agenda because it says no density bonus was used. It was an oversight. It needs to say a 12% density bonus was used. So I think if the board's going to go forward with the new price, we would just like to have those conditions labeled 1 and 2 replace the conditions 3 and 4.
I'll amend my motion to reflect the changes he said.
I will accept that as a second.
Okay. I do have one last comment. I am in full support as we go forward of not having in lieu fees. The only hesitation I had with this one was the fact that this was an option for them when they started in 2019. And we had this discussion in agenda review yesterday. Also, the fact that these houses are at the price they are being delivered is something that we don't see very frequently right now. So I'm in support of this. But in June, when we talk about in lieu fees and the exchange, I'll be very happy to voice my opinion that I'm not in favor of in lieu fees. We need the units. We need them in the ground as soon as possible. Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. I see no more lights on. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? See, the motion carries 5-2. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, Attorney Stone?
Madam Mayor, I don't know that we did disclosures on this item.
You're right, we did not. Thank you for the reminder.
And then if, after doing disclosures, anybody, there's nobody in the public, so I guess it wouldn't matter, but if anybody would like to reconsider after that, you can always do that.
Thank you. Okay, disclosures. Let's go with Commissioner Powell this time. This would be item number 4.
No disclosure.
Commissioner Weiss.
No disclosure.
Vice Mayor Baxter.
No disclosures.
I have no disclosures also. Commissioner Woodward.
No disclosures.
Commissioner Sacks.
No disclosures.
Commissioner Flores.
Right before the meeting started, I notified Mr. Hearing that I would be pulling the item.
Thank you very much. So we have disclosures in place. We have a motion, a second, and a vote. I see that we do not have any cards, so we are now done with item number 4. We are now moving on to item number 5. Correct? Item number 5. Disclosures are not required on any of the upcoming agenda items. So item number 5, staff want to do a presentation?
Yes, this presentation will be done by Maria Bello.
Good morning, Commissioners. This item is a request by a developer in our exchange program for an extension of the deadline for delivery of 39 workforce housing units. As spelled out in your backup, this particular developer, Bridge Holdings, who I believe may have a representative here this morning, became an exchange builder in an agreement with GL Homes to take on the obligation from a GL Homes project and deliver those 39 units in a project that Bridge Holdings is building in Lake Worth Beach. That particular project was due to provide those units by January of this year within the 36-month period. However, ran into some issues with regard to the design of the project and a lot of back and forth with the City of Lake Worth Beach. Happy to report that they have, as of Monday of this week, received their building permit. So they are underway. They have paid their impact fees and, of course, had the development approval from the City of Lake Worth Beach. So it appears that they are moving forward at this point. But they, to continue as in the exchange, they've had to get an administrative extension from staff, which was granted, and any further extension beyond that 3-month administrative extension requires approval by this board. And so they are requesting an extension of their deadline through the end of 2026 to allow them to complete the project and deliver those 39 workforce units. They have extended the surety through this administrative period and will extend it further through the end of the extended deadline if the board approves. If the board does not approve the extension of the deadline, the county would cash the surety, just under $1.7 million, but the units would be unrestricted once they are constructed. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I see no lights on. No questions? Commissioner Flores.
Yeah, so basically it looks like they're trying to get this project completed. It looks like we're going to extend the surety bond, which is a fail-safe for us. So I don't have a problem by extending this. Make a motion to approve the request.
Thank you. I have a motion from Commissioner Flores, a second from Commissioner Woodward. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? See that motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much. So that is the end of that. Let us now move on to, I lost my page. Item number 6, Loxahatchee Estates overlay. This is the first reading. Does anyone from the board require or desire a presentation? Do we have any cards? We have one card. All right, we'll have that card at this time.
Elizabeth Accomando. I apologize. She did not wish to speak. She wrote something she'd like read in. Would you prefer I read it or? I support the Rawlings estate, keeping in line with the existing surrounding area, the rural tier. Development is having a tremendous impact on current residents, affecting their quality of life. I appreciate their thoughtful approach to this project. I do have thoughts on a more appropriate location for a firehouse and am available to discuss at another time. Thank you.
Okay. May I get a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Motion from Vice Mayor Baxter, a second from Commissioner Weiss. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? See that that motion carries 7-0. Okay, we are on to item number 7. This is the first reading and adoption of the Affordable Housing Program parking waiver. Does anyone want a presentation? Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't need a presentation, but this was something I had brought up and staff had responded, and the board had agreed to with permission to advertise, so I'd like to go ahead and make the motion to move this item.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. A motion from Commissioner Weiss, a second from Vice Mayor Baxter. Commissioner Powell, your light is on.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would, for the benefit of those who are watching, like a brief presentation. I've had a presentation. I do believe that some people would like to kind of understand why this is being done, and not the fact that, or the thought process behind it, saying, well, if people are getting workforce housing, maybe we're saying they don't drive. So if you don't mind, if we, and just the thought process behind it, a brief presentation wouldn't be bad.
No problem. That's why we're here. Thank you. Staff.
Sure, Lisa Mayer, Zoning Director. So currently, the Unified Land Development Code allows two mechanisms to get a reduction in parking. The first is administrative reduction that the zoning director approves for up to 15%. And considering that our code requires a suburban level of parking and a lot of unique businesses have different needs, we typically approve that reduction in 15%. Any project requesting over 15%, and I'm trusting Wendy corrects me if I get this wrong, requires a Type 2 variance to be approved by the Zoning Commission. And variances have 8 very strict standards that need to be met, and one of them is not being a self-created hardship. So in the county's urban area of the Westgate CRA, they have a reduced parking figures for their projects, recognizing that more urban development has less parking. My example that's always extreme is Manhattan. If you could imagine Manhattan had suburban parking regs, it wouldn't exist. So our code recognizes for Westgate that is an area which could have reduced parking already as a matter of course. What we identified with Peace Village last year was that when we have a 100% affordable housing density bonus project, and that's what that project was, it was asking for more density than typical, and this is affordable housing values. This is not workforce. My children that live not with me are all workforce, and they all have nicer cars than me. It's workforce housing drives cars. This is the lowest of low income levels that are the affordable housing, and that's what this is for. It's not workforce. We have had interest from the Commission on Affordable Housing to expand this concept to workforce housing, but we're taking this one step at a time for the priority. And our priority and the need that we've seen from the applications coming forward, there's another one that's going to be before you maybe in May or June, that the lowest income brackets on a mass transit line close to urban services and urban areas should be afforded an opportunity to ask this board for a reduction in parking rather than, and there's 3 standards for the reduction in parking and a requirement for a parking management plan that shows that the applicant will not do predatory towing practices. So that's something that's a critical part of this, and it puts the keys to the car, with a terrible pun, in the Board of County Commissioners' hands. So when you're making a decision on a density bonus, you're also making a decision on the parking requirements. Otherwise, with a variance, that decision's made before it gets to this board. It's made by the Zoning Commission. So that's the logic behind it. And waivers are flex regs. That's what the cities are doing. That's what local governments are doing to allow alternative design standards or requirements for projects And that's the trend. So this is the first, possibly of many waivers that you get to build into increasing density and urban development to add to our overall housing stock.
Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And just for clarity, this is on a case-by-case basis, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Every single individual project that wants to take advantage of this would have to meet the standards that are on the screen and have to ask for the density bonus and have those incomes restrictions and be before this board.
Thank you.
All right. I think we have a motion and a second. Commissioner Sachs, your light is on.
This is an excellent idea, especially, Lisa, when you stated on transit corridors, because this way people can get back and forth to work. And since we're going to be watching these, as Commissioner Powell said, so that developers will not take advantage of this idea, but it's excellent. And maybe we could even have some free space there for playgrounds and things like that for the families to enjoy instead of empty parking spaces. Excellent idea. Thank you.
Thank you. I see that we have no more lights on. We had a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? See that that motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much. Now we are on item 8.
We are going to have Cindy Hoskins, Deputy Director, come up, and Michelle Pagan, our Director of Code Compliance.
This is just an item of staff presentation, so we look forward to hearing our updates.
I think this is on. Yes. Okay. Good morning, Mayor, Commissioners, Vice Mayor. We're pleased to be before you today to give you an update on the items that were presented back in April of last year. We went through quite a bit of different policies and procedures that we were looking to do at that time with our code enforcement division, that some of which we have fully implemented, some of which are being implemented. And so we're here today to give you an update on all of those things. Oops, I've got the clicker. So in September of 23, the board directed staff to review and bring back information regarding the comprehensive investigation policies. In January of 24, the board additionally directed staff to bring back information regarding the division's efforts to obtain timely compliance. And then in April of 24, we were before the board and discussed those items among others. And so today, we're here to continue with that, a status update, so to speak. The order of our presentation is the comprehensive policy inspection policies, our compliance initiatives, the renaming of the division, and the merger of the division with the contractor regulations or contractor certification division, our customer assistance team, geographical outreach efforts, restructuring of the notices of violations, the internal fine reduction processes, cease and desist orders, injunctive relief, and the new technology. The first item is our comprehensive policies. So the process that we follow is a complaint-based process. This has been fully implemented from the prior policy. So when staff receives a complaint, they do an initial research to determine the ownership of the property. They check to see if there is a current case so that they know if they're not duplicating any efforts. They then review the aerial to get an idea of where the property is situated, and then they contact the complainant and go out and conduct the on-site inspection. They focus that inspection based on what the alleged violation is, and then anything that's open and obvious observed while they're there would also be addressed. The outcome of this policy has been a positive one. Staff and the community seem to be appreciative of having the officers there to address what the initial complaint is, and assisting with any other additional items that are, again, open and obvious and visible. So before I get into all the rest of the items that we discussed, I want to talk to you about the merger that we've accomplished. In last year, early last year, the director of the contractors division left our department and went to public safety. So rather than just put another body in that position, Whitney and I discussed what we're looking at as procedural efficiencies. The contractors division has had approximately 20 people in it, which was rather small to be its own division. And we looked at the investigative enforcement part of it, and frankly, what they're designated in the resolutions that governs them. And they're actually designated as code officers. So it just made a lot of sense to merge the two divisions, which we did. That slowed down some of the implementation of the others because we wanted cross-training. We wanted to make sure everybody was on the same page moving forward. We did that. And in effect, it added 5 additional field officers that were cross-trained in code compliance, and it added 30 additional officers that were cross-trained in contractor investigations, unlicensed contractor investigations. So in effect, instead of 30 people doing one thing and 5 people doing something else that was, relatively the same, we now have 35 people that have that ability. So our procedural efficiencies are much better. We also had a situation with our contractors division that was, its operations were very manual. They're still using 3-part forms. They had stacks of files as case files. Some of which obviously was in the computer, but a lot is manual. The code division is the opposite. It's fully digital, and the cases are fully digital, and it's, so what we're doing is transferring all of that contractor enforcement and case management into the computer system, as well as looking at, again, additional efficiencies and how the contractor enforcement component is run. What I want to also assure the board is that in no way are we not enforcing contractor regulations. We haven't eliminated the division. We have just created better efficiencies. And in doing so, we've also gone from a very flat organizational chart where you had, a division director and then a person under them, and then basically a few supervisors and all the officers. Now there's multiple tiers, so staff has multiple opportunities for advancement now, to be able to have retention within its own division, and to have succession training and all of those things. It's just made a big difference. Staff is happier about it. They're getting additional training, and it's just a much more effective system that we've created. So, having said all of that, we have. Let's see, let me move to the next. I don't know why this is. Oh, sorry, well, it looks like we have, here, let me just put them all up. The customer assistance team. by doing what we've done with the merger, we also have more ability to utilize some of our supervisors and other staff as a pilot for our customer assistance team. This is something that we've discussed, and it's become more and more obvious that this is a necessity with the department to provide the customer service that is really necessary out there. The customer assistance team is going to be a supervisor and a small initial group of individuals. This is going to start as a pilot where folks that have compliance cases have the ability to go to a single point of contact to help them navigate the process. It is, the world we live in, we understand our language. We understand the processes and what we do. You know, we do this every day. Someone, general public, may have come in contact with us 2-3 times, maybe in their lifetime. So this customer assistance team, speaking the language that we all speak and understanding the customer's perspective, has the ability to know whether zoning needs to be consulted, whether planning needs to be consulted, or what is involved in order to assist them to get through the process. This team, again, will be a single point of contact that will help someone. They won't be drawing drawings. They're not going to be submitting permit applications or getting involved in that process for the individual, but they'll help guide them. They'll help explain to them when a design professional is necessary or when they may be able to do something on their own and help them through that process. We're really excited about the ability to get this started. In addition to people who have compliance cases, other folks who just want to get simple permits will also have the ability to utilize the team. So we're looking forward to be coming back to you after this is implemented and give you a breakdown of the successes that we expect this team is going to generate. So, oops, did I miss one? Yes. So the geographical outreach efforts. What this is the ability for staff as well as the commission to request that that's code compliance staff do educational outreach in certain areas. This would look like in 2 different ways. In one respect, you'd have a code compliance officer who has its normal territory. They, are responding to a complaint. They notice that a neighborhood has a substantial number of the same type of violations. So rather than opening 50 cases and issuing 50 notices of violation, they are instructed now to go back to their supervisors, discuss the opportunity for some educational outreach. That would be brought up the chain to myself and to Whitney. We would then reach out to the commissioner who has that district and discuss the opportunity for outreach. And then the officers would then, several of them would take the day, go to that neighborhood, have the door hangers, knock on doors, explain to the folks that live in that area what the issue is, give them an opportunity to resolve the violation without a notice of violation, with just education for a certain period of time. Explain that at a given date, 30, 60 days later, whatever is appropriate, that staff would come back and review again. And again, give the opportunity to either educate. If the stragglers who are not complying, at some point, notices of violation would then be issued and the normal case would proceed. So we wouldn't be ignoring the process, but we're going to start, especially on a broad basis like that.
A more human approach?
Yes, exactly. A more neighborly approach. So to date, we've not had any requests for this type of outreach. Code does, as I think most of you have been or have had outreach efforts where Code comes and does a presentation. Code does do public and community presentations with outreach now, but this is something that may be more targeted, and it's an opportunity for both you as commissioners and for staff additionally, and we just want to make sure that you know that that resource is available to you. There we go. Now, so restructuring and simplifying the notices of violation. Excuse me. When we discussed this back in April, we discussed the fact that the current form of the notice of violation is, in some cases, very long and a lot to read and digest for any regular person. And so the proposal is to separate them into each notice, or each violation, rather, would be its own notice, giving the person the opportunity, if they have multiple violations, to cure the ones that are easy that they can do right off the board and close cases. We have been negotiating with our mailing vendor because one of the components of this is obviously mailing multiple notices versus a single notice. That's more expensive, clearly. But I know that there is the capability out there to put multiple letters in a single envelope. And so that's what we have been trying to get the vendors to come to the table with, so that we're able to provide this in a way that we want to without having substantial increase in mailing costs. As soon as we do get that accomplished, we will obviously provide an update that those notices have changed and that we have successfully been able to do this with our mailing vendor.
Commissioner Sachs, can we wait till the end of the presentation?
I just want to compliment you. It's great.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the next topic is internal fine modification processes. So when we discussed this in April, one of the things we have discussed is the ability to assist those folks that have come into compliance, maybe after the fines have started, but within a very short period of time. And rather than having to go back in front of the magistrate and request fine modifications and go through all of that, to have a set policy limit as to what the department would be allowed to offer somebody as a reduction, rather than, and have that language within the order to make the process simpler for the person who's been able to achieve that. We also have taken this opportunity to talk with OFMB because we want, yes.
Would you mind clarifying what you were saying about max reduction of fee?
So what we want to do is have transparency and consistency. When I say a maximum fee, so it's more, or a maximum discount, let's call it. Let's say it's 10%, and I'm just making up a number. But if we have the language in the order that says that if, once fines have commenced, if the respondent comes into compliance within the first 30 days, 60 days, or whatever it is, that staff has the ability to reduce the amount of fines by 10%, or whatever that number is. What we don't want is to have an arbitrary number, or have it be this person's decision on one day and another one on another day. There would be a set number that would be allowed, and anything in excess or different would need to go back to the magistrate, or if it's down and with OFMB, would need to come to the board if it doesn't meet its limits. So it's...
Sure.
So are you saying that max reduction is what we would be allowing staff to reduce?
The division, yes.
The division to reduce.
Right.
But then ultimately anything, I'm just making sure this doesn't impact the board's ability, that once it comes to us, if it's gone to a magistrate, if it's gone to wherever, and then it comes to us, we're not maxing ourselves.
Oh, no. No, the board has, this is simply what staff would be allowed to do. Anything different from that would go to a magistrate or would come to the board. It wouldn't, the board would not be limited by this. This is a staff limitation.
I just wanted to clarify that because that's not how it sounded at first, so thank you.
My apologies. Yes. No, by no means would we be looking to limit what the board has the ability to do. And actually, in that respect, we also have been having great conversations and working with OFMB because we, with OFMB, want to come back to the board with an item to discuss settlement parameters and criteria. We would be looking for the board to give us the policies that you would like us to pursue in certain levels, and then anything in excess or different from that would then come to the board, or if it's still within the department, it would go to the magistrate. So we will be coming back with OFMB and a joint item to have those policy discussions and get the direction of the board at that time.
Thank you.
Okay, so we did discuss in April the if we have egregious cases, that we would be setting up a process to be able to issue cease and desist demands or orders through either the magistrate or through the executive. And to date, we've not had any requests for cease and desist. We have set up the procedure. We have set up a checklist. We've set up a template of information that's required of staff to provide to its supervisors, to provide to us to determine whether this is an appropriate action. And we've not had any requests yet. I think with the merger, that we need to also continue training on this with staff so that they fully understand what this tool is and what the ability is to use it. So that continues. And like I said, to date, we have not had any requests, but the process has been established. The next is the injunctive relief. So this would be something that would be pursued, as we discussed, after a cease and desist, or possibly straight to, depending on if there's life safety or any type of really severe issues. This is something that, again, we have established the process, the checklist, the informational template package, all of those things. We are working with the county attorney's office. The county attorney's office is in the process of determining whether this process would be handled through a contracted outside counsel or whether they would do it in-house. We have not received information as to where that's going with the county attorney's office. I can tell you that from the department's perspective, we've got our processes set up, and we've not had any requests. There's nothing pending that we're waiting on for the county attorney's office. It's simply we are just looking to establish the back half of the process and what that would look like with them, but it's not delaying anything by any means. So new technology. When we were here in April, we had just started the pilot program for the body-worn cameras and had, I believe, 10 officers that were testing the system out in the different territories. Went very well. So upon completion of that pilot program, we, in conjunction with the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office, all of the staff was trained because this program is in conjunction with the PBSO. As far as how data is saved and protected and all of those things, that is in conjunction utilizing the vendors through PBSO. One of the nice things about that is they've been a large participant in the training of that. It's gone very well. The officers that were a little hesitant up first are now fully on board, recognizing the benefits to themselves and the public. And then decibel meters. So the current process utilizes PBSO quite a bit, and there's a kind of a reasonable person standard in the code. The division has purchased the appropriate state-of-the-art decibel meters, and we expect that through zoning, we will be looking to amend the noise ordinance. There's nothing wrong necessarily with the existing noise ordinance. It's more about, as times change, things need to be updated. And in reviewing the ordinance, we could do better. And so that's what we're looking to do. And these decibel meters meet the standards that are upheld if something is brought to court, just like the radar guns. So, they are reviewed on an annual basis, they're calibrated, all of those things. It's the appropriate equipment to utilize once that program is fully in place. And that's what we've got. We're happy to answer any questions.
Well, I thank our board for waiting so that we got through the whole presentation, because sometimes you answer the questions as we go along. Vice Mayor Baxter, you put your light on?
I did.
You did. I have you. So please.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple questions, and something I had brought up before. Do you know how many current open cases we have in code enforcement?
Good morning. Currently, I do not know the exact number, but I can get you that number very easily later on this afternoon if you choose.
An approximate?
I could not give you that approximate because it changes every day.
Whitney, would you happen to have this I've asked this question before. Do you know approximately how many open cases there are?
I can easily,
Yeah,
I mean, if
thousands.
you just give me some time, I could ask staff to get that number for you while we do it.
If you could, please.
Sure.
And then, so is there also a Florida law that requires now that no one can be anonymous when they're making a complaint?
Yes, there's a statute regarding anonymous complaints that staff is not allowed to act on those unless it's determined that there's an imminent risk to the public health, safety, welfare, or environmental damage.
And is that what our current code compliance officers are doing?
Yes, they're abiding by that statute.
No, what I mean is when there's a complaint and they're on the way to the house, are they currently writing up other problems they see outside of life safety issues?
If I understand, if what you're saying is, so if an officer gets a complaint and they're going down Main Street to go look at that 123 Main Street, and that's the subject of the complaint, if they see a violation that's next door that's open and obvious, then yes, they will address that as a self-initiated complaint.
Even if it's not a life safety issue?
Yes. If it's a open and obvious code violation, then yes, they would address that.
And do we know how many of our complaints are initiated by staff versus a neighbor complaining?
That I don't have the number, but it is a separate field in our database, so we can obtain that for you.
One of the things we have discussed previously, and I thought worth mentioning it again today, because thank you to the amazing staff, we've had this great presentation, is that I'm not a fan of our code compliance officers doing this. And when I spoke to the county attorney previously, she said we would have to implement a policy that would come into alignment with what I believe would better align with what we would want, is unless it was life safety, not to have, code compliance, just be able to write things up. And then again, then there's not really, I guess it would be staff making the complaint.
Correct.
And I don't really like that look for us. So I would like to hear what my board potentially would have to say about that. Nobody wants to say anything. I mean, I would
Well, I have, well, you know what? How about when, we have lights on, how about when the lights are on, they will respond and then ask their questions also. Do you have any other?
No,
Okay. Commissioner Weiss, you were next.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Hoskins. First off, just wonderful to have you back in person. So it's so nice to see you here, and really want to thank you and your department and Michelle for all you've taken what we asked you to do, and you have certainly delivered for us. So I really appreciate that. I like the innovation that you've taken in restructuring the department. I think that was well done, and I like the customer assistance team to try and, I know, as you said, most people throughout their lives probably never have something like this, but occasionally it does happen, and when it does, if you don't understand the system and the process and the nomenclature, it can be really confusing. And so I think that's going to help resolve cases very much more quickly and provide a sense of, because I know, I remember once I got a notice of a violation because they didn't like the house numbers on my house. I guess they were not in compliance. And I had bought the house that way with these big numbers on it. Anyways, long story short, you get a notice like that, and it's like, I feel like I'm getting a traffic ticket, and you get, I don't know, I want to take care of it as quickly as possible and get it resolved. So I think that will help. I also like the fine reduction and the idea of giving you that if somebody is trying to comply and it takes them a little extra time, I think we all understand, and I thought that's something very reasonable. The cease and desist and injunctive relief, unfortunately, in District 2, we have had some really egregious situations with people just inflicting, harm on their neighbors and the impact it's had on them. And so having the ability to get after people who just do not want to be good neighbors at all, I think that's an important step. Unfortunately, it happens rarely, thank goodness, but when it does, I think you all need a tool to be able to deal with that, so I support that. And then lastly, as it relates to your use of or upgrading your technology, I mean, the sound meters, I can't, we've had, and this goes on, it can go on for weeks, days, or months. I mean, where neighbors are unfortunately, again, just maybe they're not aware of the impact they're having on their neighbors, but it gets very loud. And then it's this back and forth between code and PBSO, and the person feels like I'm getting no relief from my government to help me with it. And so having those sound meters to be able to have your officers be able to try and assist and provide some peace and tranquility to the neighbors is, I think, we'll benefit from that. And then I thought overall, I think you guys are definitely moving in the right direction. You certainly took our direction in regards to becoming more user-friendly, becoming more customer focused, and more just compliance-driven as opposed to enforcement. To my colleague's question, Vice Mayor, regarding if they see a violation, I think to me it's always in degrees. I would rather them. Well, I have to say there are things that are not life safety that are horrendous sometimes that they see. And I do want them to have that ability. I don't know where you draw that line. I don't know how to give direction to do that. I think the easiest way is to allow them to, and because we've got these other things in place to assist, I think it will really minimize if it was a minor violation. But there can be major violations that are not life, safety, health, and welfare, but are just egregious, and they need to be addressed. And then the last thing I was going to mention to you, and you did talk about your body-worn cameras. I know Sheriff's Department now they're using the same, provider as you all are wearing. They're able to now, using artificial intelligence to transcribe what's happened on the cameras to help them facilitating writing their reports much more quickly, and maybe something you all can look to see if it's something that would help your code compliance officers as well. So with that, those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, thank you for all the work that you've put in after our last meeting. I was unaware of the merger of departments, and since we do have a labor shortage, trouble hiring people, I think this is fantastic that we're cross-training people, so we actually have more able to do the same job. And the CAP program that you've put in place, very eager to see how that goes. As someone who lives in a city and is currently trying to pull a permit, I wish my city had this right now. So I look forward to hearing, do you know about when you expect this to be up and running?
We are in the process of filling some vacancies and as a result of the merger. And so once that happens, we'll be able to start this on a, kind of a quiet basis, probably within the next month or two.
Okay.
So it'll be very soon.
And this will be for people who are coming in to pull permits or they want to do work with the county, and those who have received a violation. So it's anyone who would have to be working through this, whether voluntarily or not. This will help them get through the process, right?
Correct. And it's not meant to be, it's not for agents to come and utilize on major projects. It's for the homeowners who need assistance, yes.
Okay. And then is the geographical outreach efforts, is that something that you would notify us of that something's in our district, and we can also come to you if we're getting some emails from some people in a certain area, we can come to you also?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, because then we'll need to talk after. I think I have an area already. And then as far as for the Vice Mayor's question, for life safety, I guess I would have to know exactly what is considered life safety and what is not, because there, if it's a nuisance neighbor where it's, garbage, extreme overgrowth, junkyard type, is that considered life safety, or is that considered?
No, it would not be that, that would not be considered life safety, but also keeping in mind that the code compliance is also charged with helping to maintain the property values and to help, from blight and other issues in addition to life safety. And so those other issues are also addressed that may not be life safety, but may be of concern.
Well, I would want them, if they see those types of things, to still cite. I think for, with, as Commissioner Weiss said, with what you're putting into place, hopefully it wouldn't be something that's extremely nitpicky. And if it is, we have people to help them get through that. This, I hope that our officers are going to use very good judgment when they're doing this, especially if it's not the complaint that they're going to, but they see something. But if it's growth, garbage, junkyard, we want all of our property values everywhere in the county to have, the best that they can, and not have neighbors who are not taking care of their property. So I would vote to keep that in place as you're doing it now, but of course, give people a way to get into compliance if it is a very minor issue. But I think that you're putting things into place, would appear so. And if not, it should be brought to us, and we can help as well through the process. But thank you for all the work you've done. This is fantastic. Thank you.
Commissioner Flores.
Good morning, Good morning, great presentation. A little long, but it's good.
I'm sorry.
Ms. Hoskin and Ms. Pagan, I thought this was great. I wasn't here for, I think this started back in 23. It says here September 23, BCC Director of Staff. Is that correct? So this was a BCC-led push to get to where we're at today?
It was to bring back the information on those two topics, yes.
Okay. And the reason I'm asking is because I like your approach that you took to this, looking for efficiencies, looking for ways to make this a way to help the community be able to get into compliance, because the whole purpose of this is to get into compliance. And by you creating a team of customer assistants, I think that helps people, because like Commissioner Weiss said, people don't understand. And a lot of us have moved here from other areas, and the codes differ from town to town, city to city, HOA to HOA. So it's almost impossible for you to keep track of what the code is where you're at. So it's great that we're taking that customer service approach. So I want to thank you on that. And I guess my last message is I would like to see more efficiencies come through in other departments and other areas too. So I want to commend you on leading this effort, make it more customer friendly, because at the end of the day, we're here to service our residents and our community. In regards to Vice Mayor's Baxter's comments, I have a hard time buying into that, and the reason is because my district is a little older, a little bit more blighted, and I'm actually looking to clean up some of the areas in my district, and I'm going to need code. And once again, it's about getting people to comply, and I think a lot of this is educational. I think a lot of people don't understand what's happening. So it's not about penalizing people, but it's about letting them know, hey, by the way, what you just did is not up to par. And, if it was a police officer and they drive by somebody putting graffiti because they weren't called, they're going to address it. It would be the same here for code. So I don't want to take that power away from our code. And by the way, I saw code the other day driving by, and this happens a lot in my district. A lot of the small businesses put yard signs all over the place. I know they're trying to promote their businesses, but that creates an issue and an image. So to me, these are things that need to be addressed, and we can't just sweep that under the rug. Thank you. Great job.
Thank you. Commissioner Powell, your light is on, so I know Commissioner Baxter is, but we'll do a first round and then a second round.
Son, I just want to tell you, I think you did a great job with this. I didn't weigh in a whole lot because most of the areas that I represent are not in unincorporated Palm Beach County, so a lot of the code compliance issues will generally fall under municipalities. But as a whole, I think this is good in terms of efficiencies and working with the people in the community to help people understand. For the most part, people, give or take, find themselves in violation because they either don't know or don't understand. And you've built in mechanisms that will allow people to have a better understanding. And also the idea that you've created opportunities, which is very rare in government, for people to directly deal with someone who can explain the issues. They don't have to press 1, press 2, press 1 again, stay on hold for 10 minutes, you're in queue. So I'm thankful for that, and we appreciate it.
Thank you. Commissioner Sachs.
You got to get this on tape. This is really good. Ms. Hoskins, you're from Miami-Dade, aren't you, where you did similar work?
I worked in Miami-Dade, yes.
I recall when you first came on. I want to thank Ms. Carroll as well for heading this department, and Ms. Pagan, I tell you, you've been out to my area numerous times, and that truck comes out, dogs go inside, horses are put away, everybody just follows through because you have respect. You worked with an elderly gentleman in my neighborhood about a pool fence that was, I think, constructed in the 30s or something. You worked with him until he got it right, and I appreciate that very much. So, but you were tough on other issues there as well, and I just appreciate all the work you're doing. Keep it up. Maybe you can make a template for other departments, huh, Ms. Carroll? But, thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you. I actually have some questions and some comments. Page 4, which was your merging, I think that's a great tool, and it's actually a great example for what we can do in other departments. We don't want to, sometimes redundancies, we don't know it until we start talking about it, which this is a great avenue. How did you actually, what brought this about? I know you explained it a little bit, but are other counties doing something like this? Was there a best practices somewhere else that pushed you to this?
Yes, when we originally brought this forward, we did quite a bit of research in other counties, but we also looked at our ability to respond directly to complaints and the time from the moment we receive the complaint to the moment that the officer goes and does the inspection. And we wanted to be able to reduce that and create a better efficiency there. So instead of being 3 or 4 days, I'd like to get us down to a day. But we were able to shorten that a bit because the policy prior to this was if we received a complaint, there was what I would describe as a full-scale investigation on everything that ever happened on that property, so that when the officer went out to the property, they were not only looking at the subject of the complaint, but multiple other areas. And rather than doing that, we still want to address what we see as a violation, but it's not perceived and not taken as that we are out there to get people, because that's not, again, our focus is compliance. And if there's an open and obvious violation and we're called to a property because of a specific thing, we need to address that specific thing. Anything that, as we've discussed, is open and obvious, but then let people live their lives unless it's something that we see.
So on page 5, when you talk about the CAT team, one of the things I've learned along the way, and CDBG grants, a lot of them are doled out through code complaints, through, if you have a senior that is in a house and they're on a fixed income and all of a sudden everything goes up, what things go by the wayside, and a lot of times that's their lawn or the maintenance of their house and whatnot. So I do appreciate code having here, let's talk about what your issues are, so let's see how we can help you get through them kind of perspective. Because as you said, it's about community. It's not really we want neighborhoods to not be blighted, but we also want to understand why they're blighted. Is it just neglect because you're just neglecting it, or is it because you just now all of a sudden don't have the means to do it? So that approach I understand very well and appreciate it. And in reference to Vice Mayor Baxter, can you go over the procedure? If somebody is driving down the street and they're going to house number 3, but they see something on house number 2, what is now the procedure currently?
It would depend on we would be responding to the violation itself to do the site inspection for the complaint. If we see something that's open and obvious, and I'll give you an example, a parking complaint, where we may see vehicles parked over the sidewalk. It's a single driveway, single vehicle driveway, but there's 4 cars and 3 of the cars are blocking the sidewalk, actually parked over it, parked in the swales and things like that. That's something that we don't turn a blind eye to because it's a parking complaint, but really it poses life safety issues because people can't transverse on the sidewalk safely. They're going into the street and things like that. So we will address that. Sometimes it's as simple as knocking on a door and letting people know and educating them, because you can't park on a sidewalk. Something as simple as that. Other times, we may go out and see that this is a recurring problem, and we'll coordinate with the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office and other resources that we need to address.
So I guess what I was getting at was, what is the first notification to the resident or homeowner on if they're in a violation? Is it a knock on the door, or is it they're receiving a letter?
Correct, it's a knock on a door.
So it's a soft push?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'm okay with that. The mailing notices, I hope you guys can get that taken care of. And then page 7, let's see, I put time frame down. Let me see why I wrote that down. Oh, I know why I wrote that down. Because oftentimes when a settlement comes to us, it's been years that a violation has been either not settled or has been settled, but it's finally coming to us for a fine and whatnot. I guess my either question or comment is the time frame needs to speed up. These can't be just laying there dormant for a while. We can't be giving people, 4 years to come into compliance, especially some of these are life safety issues. And I'm not going to go into the fines and how we settle them because I don't want people to think that we're going to just let them get off with the 10%, fine, because then you're encouraging people to not come into compliance. And again, this is about coming into compliance. But if you're not doing it, you shouldn't be just given a free rein to not do it. So that's just my little editorial on timeframes. And with that, Vice Mayor Baxter, your light is on.
Thank you, Mayor. To follow up, I guess I should have said all 3 words, life, safety, health, and wellness. And I believe, Cindy, thank you for saying that. And I did want to thank staff for putting this together. It was a great presentation and all the hard work you've put together into making this a much better program, much better process. And it's been a long journey, so I'm glad we're here. Thank you for all of it, truly. I will go over first the things I do support the staff's ability to the 10%. I do support updating, and I like that we now have the sound decibels, so thank you for that. And the body cameras, having a team that can assist residents one-on-one is phenomenal. Thank you. And I'm not in favor of the injunctive relief. I never will be in favor of that process, so that's just a preference of mine. Also, when it comes to if something is so egregious, even outside of life safety, health, or wellness, the point is that we have a staff that seems to be very underwater with thousands of code complaints already in the system. Somebody's going to complain. The idea is that if it's not bothering the neighbors, why are the staff outside of those 3 issues? I'm not a fan, and apparently the board disagrees, and that's okay. I respect their decision. I'm just not a fan of our code compliance officers having the authority to then write them up for things that are not a life safety, health, or wellness issue. I think it's a bad look for government to do that. I think it's a bad look for us to have them or give them that authority. But again, I'm in the minority on that one, and that's okay. I would like to just, again, overall say thank you for everything, and keep up the good work.
That was a great presentation. Thank you very much. There is no need for a motion. This was just a presentation. Thank you for keeping us updated. And this was a great introduction to our new commissioners, so they know what the process is. They know that we as staff continue to look out for us, bring us more information, update us on new policies and procedures, new initiatives that you've done. So we greatly appreciate this, and it was a lot of hard work, and we do appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to have a switch of staff here a little bit. Okay. This is going to be the Brookside presentation. We've been asked to bring this back by one of our commissioners. I see us taking lunch after this presentation. I'm hoping it doesn't take more than an hour, but if it does, hopefully we can get it under wraps. And then once this presentation is over, actually what we'll do is once the presentation is over, I would like to have the planning director, the zoning director, and the executive director do their comments so that when we come back, it will just be the workshop and you all will be, don't need to be here. All right? So we'll take an hour for lunch. So maybe depending on when we break, we'll take an hour. But I see it happening after this presentation. Yeah, all right. So we have 2 commissioners off the dais for a second, no problem. Bobby, can you hear us where you are? Oh, okay. Commissioner Powell is on his way back. Thank you. Okay, Brookside.
Mayor, good morning. Quickly, before SB jumps into the meat of the presentation, back before you, direction from February with the property owner interested in developing the property. Some of you will remember we were here before you 2 years ago, very similar type issue, and you'll find the presentation to be very similar as well. The short story is property owner is interested in developing it. This one is unique in that the board has a conservation easement over the 75 acres that precludes development. So it would require an action outside of the land use aspect as a precursor or in concert with the land development process if the board directed and took that action. So this one is a little bit unique as why, while comprehensive plan and zoning applications could follow, this is a go or no-go point for making those decisions. So with that, I'll hand it over to SMA.
More than happy. And good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. This is a presentation that we have provided the board before, so I'm going to try to keep it as succinct as possible, but obviously this board can direct me to take a deeper dive into any given topic. So with that said, in 1999, Palm Beach County approved the Agricultural Reserve Bond, which provided $150 million for the establishment of a land acquisition program. In May of 2003, the board then approved the acquisition of the Brookside property, basically 78 acres, 3 of which were set aside for the Lyons Road right-of-way. The county acquired the property, basically rounding for $5.1 million. And at the time the property was acquired, it was being used as an in-ground nursery. The Ag Reserve, as you know, the program has some interesting considerations that must be kept in mind. It was funded through 2 tax-exempt bonds, and that means that private activity limitations apply to the use of those bonds. Back then, a decision was made not to lease the property, as proceeding with a lease will have triggered those limitations under IRS regulation. And a refunding plan was presented to the board in order to solve that situation. County staff came to the board with a recommendation to approve something that is called a refunding plan. That refunding plan provided a number of agreements that needed to be approved concurrently in order for the refunding plan to serve its purpose. In May 2006, the county presented those agenda items, inclusive of the one that was needed to sell the Brookside property. As it is typical with county procedures, selling the property require a public process, which means 2 RFPs took place, one in November of 2005. Unfortunately, that one did not result in the amount needed in order to trigger the refunding plan. So a second RFP was issued in 2006. That RFP established a minimum bid amount, which was basically the appraisal value. It also established that there were going to be limitations on how the property was going to be sold. Proposals were received, and in May 2006, the board selected the proposal submitted by the Bowman Group for a purchase price of $3.2 million. This slide basically shows what we have shared with the board, that entitlements to the property were removed at the time of sale, and that was established in the RFP. When we came to the board back in December of 2022, questions were raised as to the ownership of the companies from which the county bought the property and to which the county sold the property. The next slides, and I'm not going to go into detail unless the board will like us to do so, basically cover those ownership interests that were discussed and questioned a couple of years ago. During that same meeting, we were also asked to provide information as to the environmental conditions that relate to the property, and it was being questioned if the property was suitable for inclusion in the Ag Reserve. When the property was acquired, the county did perform environmental assessments, and what you have on this slide is basically a summary of the results that were shown there. Then, I'm gonna just call to the attention that the limited Phase 2 environmental site assessment concluded that based on the results of the same, significant environmental impacts were not detected in soil, sediment, or groundwater collected at the areas identified in the report, and then continues to say, it is therefore the consultant's opinion.
Isme, take your time.
Understood. So, slow the pace, understood. So I was basically sharing that when, back in December 2022, the environmental condition of the property was questioned, we brought to the table, to the board, information as to the environmental studies that were conducted. The environmental studies that were conducted at the time of acquisition, an excerpt of which are being shared with the board, basically stated that the consultant's opinion was that it could be continued to be used for agricultural purposes and that no additional assessment was warranted at the time. So that's how the acquisition came to be. As Patrick stated in closing, for development on the Brookside property to be feasible, the conservation easement at a minimum will need to be partially released. Development rights will need to be assigned through a text amendment to the county's comp plan, and in our opinion, because the property was sold at a discounted price, a conversation regarding compensation should be taken place if so the board wishes. So I tried to keep it succinct, but I'm more than happy to take a deeper dive in any of the topics discussed. And that basically concludes staff presentation. We will gladly take any questions as you deem appropriate.
I don't see any lights on. Do we have any cards?
Yes, we have one card. Neil Schiller.
Good morning, Madam Mayor and Honorable Board of County Commissioners. I actually have a very brief presentation. I can pass it out or I can put it on the screen. It's up to you, or I can do both.
You can pass it out and put it on the screen.
Perfect. Thank you.
There you go.
Got it. Okay. Oh. Ready?
Yep.
Thank you so much. Again, Neil Schiller, Government Law Group, 137 Northwest 1st Avenue in Delray Beach. I'm here today representing Brookside Nursery and the Bowmans. The second slide is just an aerial of the subject property that we're talking about. This is the property north of Delray Marketplace on the corner of Lyons Road and Atlantic. I took a look at the existing and approved uses so you could see what's going on there, and highlighted the subject property again. To the south is Delray Marketplace with some industrial uses, some residential uses, and commercial uses surrounding the site. So really the proposal that we're asking for today is very simple. We would love the opportunity to have a pre-application meeting with your staff. But before we could do that, this board needs to allow that and give us permission and direct your staff to have that pre-application meeting. And that pre-application meeting will be there to address our proposal, which would be to reconfigure the 75 acres to include the 20-acre horse farm, and I have a graphic about this on the next slide, and release 20 acres, which fronts Lyons Road, which is just north of Delray Marketplace. And in order to do that, we have to dedicate and transfer 75, in fee simple, 75 acres under conservation easement to Palm Beach County with these conditions. And these numbers are preliminary numbers, but essentially have some of that acreage be used for preserve for Delray Marketplace, some of that acreage be used to count towards the 75-acre conservation easement. Some of that acreage of unrelated land counts for the 75-acre conservation easement. Allow for a 5-acre parcel to be developed as affordable housing to satisfy our 25% on-site workforce housing requirement. Allowed the development of 240 townhomes on that 20 acres fronting Lyons Road as an expansion of Delray Marketplace. And as many of you know, they always had considered residential units to be a part of that development. And finally, a new term would be to identify, purchase, and dedicate at least 20 acres, of environmentally sensitive and valuable land to the county. So this is somewhat what it looks like on the left under the current situation. That nice yellow rectangle is your 75 acres under conservation easement to the south. Just have a couple more minutes. Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. 20-acre horse farm with Delray Marketplace, and south of the horse farm is the approved medical. Proposed, if we can figure this out, and that's an if, that blue dotted line around the properties is the new 75-acre conservation easement. That includes the 20-acre horse farm, 5 of which would be workforce housing units, whether we build it or it's given to the county so you can build it. And then the 20 acres for the 240 townhomes just north of Delray Marketplace. Your staff, Isame, did a great presentation and highlighted some of the financial considerations related to the purchase and sale of the property. Under the current proposal, the county would be receiving, again, the 75 acres in conservation easement in fee simple for $0. So our request today is very, very simple. While we feel that this proposal has a lot of merits, it's never been reviewed by staff. We've not had the opportunity to have a pre-application meeting with your staff. What we're asking for today is not a vote on whether this is a good project or a bad project, because frankly, nobody knows because it hasn't been vetted yet, even at the initial stages. All we're asking for is permission to have that vetting occur and let your staff come back to you and have another decision point as to a go or no go there. But at least have all the information before you make that decision. And that's what we're asking for today. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Powell, your light is on.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
That wasn't for you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Attorney Schiller, when you say 75 acres will be dedicated to the county, I've got a couple questions. And is this land, the 75 acres that's outlined, it does not include this 20 acres of 240 residential homes, but it does show a plot with 5 acres dedicated specifically for 120 affordable units, and then
workforce housing.
Affordable and workforce?
Workforce.
Workforce, okay. I thought I heard you say affordable. Workforce is a little bit different. With regard to this Couple questions I have. The 15-acre horse farm, would that be under the current conservation easement?
Well, there is no current conservation easement. We'd be amending the existing one to include the horse farm.
So, follow up, Madam Mayor?
Oh, sure. This is going to be an interesting discussion. Go right ahead.
Thank you. So if, let's say we're to move uses, the 15-acre horse farm, let's just say we were going to put it under the 75 acres that's already under conservation easement. Would that be an allowed use under a conservation easement today?
I believe it would be, as it's an agricultural use. Agricultural uses are allowed in the conservation easement. I believe it would be no, it's not.
I'm going to look to staff.
I know.
The 15 acres specifically is is set aside as part of the 60% preserve for the Delray Marketplace. So the horse farm, the activities on it now are consistent as a preserve.
Thank you. You would also, the 25 acres that you show, I forget what you said, that just be left alone, and then the TMD preserve would be the 30 acres. Good. Another question I have with regard to this, if this were, you said the ownership would then be transferred to the county. Who would be responsible for maintaining the land? The county?
If it's transferred to us, we would pick up the maintenance responsibilities, yes.
The area, follow up.
Go right ahead. Keep going.
Thank you. The area that's under preserve now, the 75 acres, who's responsible for maintaining that?
So just to be clear, the 75 acres is not owned by the county. That's under a conservation easement, so it's owned by the Brookside interests. The good portion of this, notwithstanding the development side of it, some of it would come to us in our ownership and maintenance.
Thank you. I guess my last question would be, and I think we were having this discussion just a little bit, Dr. Ismay. With regard to the bond, and I know we haven't done this study, and transfer of development rights and what would happen, we purchased the land for $5 million. The county sold it back for $3 million. How would we, barring the time that it's been under conservation easement, the time for development, the appraisal of the land, what would be the process of determining what the county's portion would be in terms of, if we were to move forward, how the county would be compensated?
Staff recommendation will be to have it appraised, and have it appraised under the conditions that are reflective of current proposals and market. Why? Because when we appraised back in 2006 for the disposition, it was based on the premise that entitlements were to be removed, which is what occurred through the RFP and through the sale.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions. The challenge I do have is just how conservation easements work, and when we put things under conservation easement, what that means. So that's a real, as a planner, that becomes a challenge for me, just trying to figure out how to do that. And I want to be helpful. I do. I want to see how we do that without causing any harm. So follow. That's.
May I respond real fast?
Absolutely, please.
So thank you, Commissioner Powell. I think that's the whole reason why we're here. For you to amend a conservation easement, the juice has to be worth the squeeze. But we don't know the size of the orange we're even talking about yet, because we haven't had the chance to vet the application or even have an official pre-application meeting with staff. As you guys know, many applicants have pre-app meetings with staff and then even don't go forward. This would be an opportunity to us to identify all the issues with your staff, have your staff identify all the issues for us, and determine next steps. And one of those next steps would likely be coming back before this board, before your staff spends more time vetting this, so there's a decision that they don't waste their time, and we don't want to waste ours either.
Any more questions, Commissioner Powell? Okay. Commissioner Baxter. Or, excuse me, Vice Mayor Baxter, sorry.
Good morning. My question kind of is for staff. Since I've been here, this is the second time.
December 22.
Okay, third.
December 22, March 2023. Third one. Yes.
Thank you. And I don't see that just having the ability to put in an application to see if it's even viable, not viable. We're not making a decision on whether we like the project, we hate the project, if it's a good idea, bad idea. But at this point, we can't even get a staff analysis on it. Is that correct?
That is correct and consistent with what we've done. We had an application in 2014, I believe it was, and then it was actually returned because you're precluded by the terms of the conservation easement, precluded from developing. A little bit of a catch-22, and do not disagree. There's nothing that would move forward to this board based on the conservation easement in place. We couldn't process and spend a consultant's time, a property owner's time, wouldn't want to, much less staff time, knowing that they can't develop on the property, hence us being here seeking your direction.
I think we're in a different day. Values of properties have changed significantly. And I would like to see some analysis by staff on this. I would like to see some information. So, I mean, ultimately, I would kind of like to see what that looks like and at least accept an application. Again, that doesn't mean we like what we're going to see at the end of this. It just means we want to see the information. And I like data. So thank you, guys.
Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm okay with allowing staff to take a look at this and get your input. I think what I see here that I've never seen before is this 20 acres replacement or swap, if you will, and I'm assuming that would be in the Ag Reserve?
Identify yourself first.
Richard Bowman, Brookside, live in Delray Beach. No, it's cost prohibitive in the Ag Reserve right now.
Okay.
Commissioner Woodward. Or were you done?
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Commissioner Woodward, thank you.
Okay, a couple of questions real quick for staff or the applicant, future potential applicant. The 75 acres that's showing up here on this chart, that's the current.
Mm-hmm.
And then to get to the 75 acres that you are proposing, 30 of those acres, it says TMD preserve. Remind me, TMD?
Those 30 acres are still under the conservation easement. They're also being used for preserve as the Delray Marketplace.
Okay. And the 25 acres just below, what is that current?
Under conservation easement. That would
Then
be.
we have the 15-acre horse farm right now. What is it? Does it have development rights, or are they being used elsewhere?
I believe there's 1.6 development rights or 1.63 on there. The rest of it's part of the TMD of Delray Marketplace.
So I guess to piggyback on Commissioner Weiss's question, because we had a notorious swap application not too long ago, and it was very important that swaps stay in the Ag Reserve. If you're going to you want to move your preserve or that was preserve somewhere else, it still has to stay within those 22,000 acres. And you're saying that whatever swap you would propose would be outside of that?
Well, I would be able to address it possibly in the Ag Reserve, but I believe, and staff please correct me if I'm wrong, it's been done twice before. It was done at the Gentle Bend site, and it was done in North Jupiter because I was part of that deal where we helped purchase the property, gave it to the county and South Florida Water Management, and South Florida Water Management gave development rights inside the Ag Reserve, and the Gentle Bend was done in a similar fashion with Johnny Bills. And I can be corrected, but I believe it went down similar to that.
Would staff like to address that?
I can tell you that any development that's occurred within the Ag Reserve, the preserve for it has been in the Ag Reserve.
Okay. So, and that is my concern with this. And I'm not opposed to letting you do an application. I've already made it clear to you, I probably won't support what comes out of this unless you blow it away. It's a high bar here, but it is extremely important to me that if you want to move this conservation easement somewhere, you have to keep it in the ag reserve.
Understood.
And this, because we're actually, what you're proposing here, even though you're putting land over to us, 5 acres of that would go to workforce housing. That's not preserved, that's not agriculture, that's not horse. I don't believe that was the intent of this process. So those 5 acres, I wouldn't be able to count towards what you're looking to do. And anything that's a preserve for something else, for another development, that can't be part of this either to get to that swap. So that's my ask of you. If you want to bring this back, it's important that the swap remains in effect, and what you're swapping is land that has development rights, not another preserve. So that would be my request.
Thank you.
Commissioner Flores, and then I'll come back to Commissioner Powell.
Mr. Schiller, the workforce housing, it looks like it would be in the county, but who's building that?
Either we could build it or find a developer or give it back to the county and you can put out an RFP and develop it yourselves.
So your proposal doesn't require us to build something. You're just putting it as your 25% requirement.
We're putting it out there. I mean, frankly, we have a 25% requirement for workforce housing as part of this development, and so that's where we thought we would put the workforce housing units.
And the workforce could be pulled out of the deal. We put it in there for our requirement and because of the needs in the county and to address the needs of the people that are working at all these centers there. You know, the people at Kite Development who own Delray Marketplace, they did a study, and the average drive time for the employees in all the center, in that center, is 40 minutes. A lot of them live in Broward County. So with all the talk about workforce and affordable housing, we thought it would help solve a separate problem altogether, but it can be pulled out.
Okay. I mean, I think there's still going to be a requirement of some sort to meet. So I think this is like really early conversations, and I don't think that we should be making a decision on a project today. I think the request is to allow you guys to have a conversation with our staff. I am in full support of that. That shouldn't be an issue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For clarity purposes, and I was trying to pull it up on the property appraisers with the address or the PCN number, but the area that's currently proposed to be deeded over to the county in terms of a transfer, have you indicated, based off of Commissioner Woodward's question, that this is already under conservation easement?
Which portion of the property?
The area that is the TMD preserve as well as the 25 acres.
That's under the conservation easement today, yes.
That's under the current conservation easement?
Yes, and would be under the future conservation easement.
So help me understand how deeding that to the county would be beneficial to the county, because currently the county doesn't own either property, but if you're going to deed land over to the county, then we inherit the responsibility, or the county inherits the responsibility of taking care of that property. But a portion of the property that would now be deeded over is already under conservation easement. Am I mistaken?
So all the whole property, the 75 acres under conservation easement right there on the left, that's owned by Brookside.
Correct.
That's privately owned.
Correct.
In our proposal, we're taking that 75 acres and we're shifting it on the property to release the 20 acres north of Delray Marketplace and to substitute that 20-acre rectangle with 20 acres of the 15-acre horse farm and the 5-acre workforce housing. And why it's beneficial for the county to own this property and fee simple is because you're the ones that get to determine what happens with the property. It's you, not a private property owner seeking to do whatever they want with with the property that they own. It's up to the county. The county has the opportunity to determine that property's future. And I think that that has some value here.
If it's already under conservation easement, how do we then determine it's under a conservation easement? How would we now determine what we could do with it?
Well, there are, in the conservation easement, there are allowable uses for the property under the conservation easement. But if you own the property, you're not going to have future application, well, maybe you will, but you likely won't have future applications for development of this property, right? If the county owns it.
And it's not part of a PUD or TMD conservation. It's a separate type of conservation. So there's no units that have been moved off and developed in the ag reserve associated with this. It was just a layer that was put on at closing when we bought the property. So there's, like I said, it's a different type of conservation than a PUD or TMD.
Okay.
There's no houses that have been built somewhere in the county or the ag reserve off of this property.
I'll be truthful. I want to be helpful, and if we move forward with allowing staff to look at this, the truth is, if staff comes back and says that this is not a good deal for the county, for me, I don't know about the rest of the board, it's a non-starter, so I don't want to lead anybody down the wrong road and think that because the board said, let's look at this, we're in favor of it. My challenge is right now listening to the staff who's already said that because it's under conservation easement, there's really no reason to move forward. I think the challenge is not even the acceptance of the application. I think the challenge starts with the process that Dr. Collazo indicated where, we start with the appraisal and see what we would be losing. I think that would be the first step. It's just me thinking out loud. It's a real challenge because when we're looking at this, there has to be, if you do a CBA, there cost-benefit analysis, the cost and the benefit has to make sense for the county. And if it doesn't, I just don't know how we start the conversation where we accept the application to look at it in terms of a development proposal when we haven't looked at what it would cost us and we haven't discussed that portion in terms of the release of the conservation easement. There's too many unknowns for me, which is a challenge. That's a really, really difficult challenge. So I do want to be helpful and I empathize with that, but I see where staff is coming from.
And Commissioner Powell, we understand this is a very challenging process and bar is set extremely high, and I think for you to understand what this cost-benefit analysis of this deal is, we need to have a pre-application meeting with staff. That doesn't commit the county to anything other than having this pre-application meeting. And at that point, maybe we can determine how much it'll cost to maintain the land, what the new appraisal value is of the land. And so you have a full picture, because we don't want you to not have a full picture. We want you to be fully informed, which is why we're asking for a pre-app meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And no further questions for now. I want to listen to what the rest of the board thinks.
No
Thank
problem.
you, Madam Mayor.
Commissioner Sachs and then Commissioner Flores.
First, I want to thank Commissioner Woodward for wanting data. And Vice Mayor Baxter for having the application to get some information on this from staff. It's about time. 3 things. I know this area. I've been there. It's my district, but I walked it. It's not easy to walk, Mr. Bowman. It's not easy to walk. But your family's done a great job. We all know what your family, Dad, and you, and everybody in your family has done for the county. We appreciate it for years. Neil, I don't know about you, but certainly Mr. Bowman's family. Let me say this, and I really would love for you to drive by this area, because Delray Marketplace is really buzzing. There's a lot going on at Delray Marketplace, and there's a lot of retail there. It has some beautiful places to shop and also to have lunch and dinner, breakfast. Has a movie theater there. These kids have no place to live. Every time I go there, I ask the staff, where y'all living? Well, we live in Broward. Or some of them live as far north as another county. They have no place to live, which is why I want to get back to you, Mr. Schiller. We're going to be talking about later, after staff gives us the data that's been requested, about putting the workforce housing next to a horse farm. That will not happen.
Okay.
That workforce housing is going to be on Lyons Road, so folks who live there can get transit. That's a transit corridor fronting Lyons Road, and maybe contiguous to the Delray Marketplace, but certainly not next to a horse farm. The horse farm is really cool. It's pretty rustic, and they have horses there that work with handicapped kids. And I've been there, and it's something that hopefully in the plans to come we can keep it, because it's the way it used to be in this area, and it's still maintained like that. And they have trainers there for kids with developmental disabilities, so it's really good. There's a number of good things about this for the county. It just needs to be configured a little better, but I do think that keeping housing is good here, keeping the workforce housing, maybe a little more, we'll see, and having, I don't know what this approved, but we can talk about it once staff gives us their analysis. But it's time to get this analysis. I think that if we have the opportunity and the authority to build what we want to have here, it will be something that we would all be proud of. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Commissioner Flores.
Yeah, I just want to add something regarding Commissioner Powell's comments about the benefits of this land if it was given to the county. And I guess, I don't know much about the history of this particular piece of land. This is a little newer to me. But in the presentation, we discussed that we owned this for about 3 years before.
That is correct.
And during that time, what did we do with this property?
The intent at one point was to list it for agricultural purposes, and that's why it was acquired. However, it was determined that doing so will have violated the conditions of the tax-exempt bonds. So it was basically kept on status quo, and that's why it led to...
So it was never leased out?
My understanding is that it was not, because it will have triggered the limitations. And I'm going here on my recollection. I don't think it was listed.
I think it was.
If this land is awarded to us now and it wasn't under the bond, would it then be able to be leased out?
Well, right now, it will not be under the bond. That was refunded. That's why we sold it.
Right.
So if it is under a conservation easement, any allowable use, basically agricultural purposes, and please correct me, is what we could do, and the board can certainly direct us
So
to.
that would be an option. It would be under our control and we could lease it out. Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, everyone's had a chance, so I'm going to go. The math is wrong on this. Right now, there's 95 acres under conservation. 75 owned by Mr. Bowman and Smith Sunday. Is that the name of it? Smith Sundry?
Smith Sunday Estates.
Smith Sunday Estates. And the other 20 acres for the horse farm is currently preserved, set aside for the Delray Marketplace. Is that correct?
The majority of it is, yes, all but like 1.6 acres.
Okay, so basically what you're now saying is you want to take this 95 acres and make it 75 acres. So 20 acres in actuality is coming out of conservation, or you're now adding 20 acres somewhere else to make up the difference?
That was the plan, yes.
Okay. All right. How many times has this come come to us for a negotiation or let's do something different or whatnot? Because I think I've heard this 4 times since I've been a commissioner.
In the past 2 years, we have been here 3 times, today being the 3rd. The last time, if I may share, that we came to the board, a question was asked if there was interest and no affirmative action was received. So we have not acted on this.
And before 2020, when I got here?
Prior to that, I can recall a comp plan amendment that we returned in 2014, and I know prior to that, there were other zoning applications going back into the late 2000s.
Yeah, and there was also another one in the, late 2000s.
So basically, this land, currently as it sits, has no development rights? Okay. And the reason it was acquired for the discounted amount was because it had no development rights?
That is correct.
So we're sitting here now, after we've promised folks that we were going to keep something in conservation, and we're saying, well, maybe let's change it and amend it and move land here and put this here so we can now put development rights on this land.
That would be the trailing piece. They would be seeking to develop it, yes, in part.
Okay. I have been not in favor of this. You all know that. We've had these discussions. I am going to go with whatever the majority of the board says here today. But again, this is just another example of the little whittling away of what's going on in the Ag Reserve, piece by piece, slice by slice. So I'm not in favor, but I will go with what the direction of the board is today. But whatever the direction of the board is today, it will have to be a majority of the board members that would either move this forward or not. So Commissioner Sachs, you're about to turn your light on, so go right ahead.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to join the Vice Mayor. I'd like to move this or give staff direction to give us data, as Commissioner Woodward said, give us some information on this, and allow the applicant to propose something, put it on paper. Let's see what it looks like. Let's look at the numbers. And then you can report back to us, and nothing will happen unless we all approve it. Did I say that right, Patrick?
I guess I would just ask if any motion that the board was going to take up was not for initiation. It would just be to return to the board with further information, really refine a lot of the information that's here and come back to the board at a point and report in and take the board's direction at that time.
Motion. This is not something that we can make a motion.
No, but we
give direction. Give direction. I want the semantics to be correct. So it's not a motion, it's to give the staff direction. To come back subsequent to application and see what it looks like. And then nothing will happen until we have a full view of what the application is.
So just to clarify, I don't think there is an application that is going to be submitted. I think what they're requesting, and clarify if I'm wrong, they're requesting permission to speak to staff about whatever it is that they're going to try to propose. I think that's what I heard, understood from the request. Clarify, please.
We're seeking a pre-application meeting with your staff.
There you go. It sounds like it's a meeting that they're requesting.
I've got lots of faces and people who want to comment. So Ismi, why don't you go right ahead?
I just have a quick question and direction being provided. In order for the real estate staff to be able to answer the questions, we will need to retain appraiser services. So I just want to make sure to validate if that direction includes entertaining appraisal services and paying for the same.
If I may, I don't understand. We got great staff. This thing has been up, Mayor Marino remembers it 4 times. We got to hire somebody to tell us what's going on with our land? Ms. Amara, can I hear from staff that we don't have enough information on this? This has been around since 1999, that we can at least have a pre-application meeting to see what it is that's there, put the numbers together, and give us something preliminarily.
Mayor, if I may, and Commissioner Sachs, This equation has two sides. One falls under PCV. My colleagues certainly have all the information that I believe they need to be able to fill in the blanks. On the real estate component, which is the question that Commissioner Powell asked, we don't have recent appraisals. The appraisals that were done 20 years ago, and the county does not hire as part of its staff appraisers. So I do not have the ability to produce an appraisal. I can produce staff's estimates, but it will be just that. It will not be appraised value because we will need to retain services and that will incur in costs. I want to make sure that I have authorization to do so.
Thank you. Does our attorney want to weigh in?
I'll let my fellow attorneys who are more expert on this provide some input.
So I'm not sure what the question is.
Well, I think the procedure is there allowed to be an application, given what Commissioner Sachs is asking, is there allowed to be an application without an appraisal?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah.
If I can interject. Just a moment.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. As somebody who's been through the process, here's the challenge you have. You're now accepting, a pre-application meeting is basically an application meeting where you're sitting with staff and you're looking at a proposed development in terms of a piece of land, what the allowable land uses are. By giving direction that says, and Whitney, if you would please interject, by saying we're going to allow a pre-application meeting, you're essentially saying that we're telling them what they can do on the land. Right now, the land has a conservation easement on it. They have not been allowed to do a pre-application meeting because essentially they cannot do anything on the land. So therefore, allowing a pre-application meeting would be basically going ahead and saying that this is what you would be allowed to do. If they had a pre-application meeting today with staff, which is probably why they haven't moved forward, staff would say you can't do anything here, so there's no reason to have a pre-application meeting. In terms of moving forward and seeing, my thought process, me thinking out loud, would be doing an appraisal to see what we would lose, and then you would have to consider whatever this land, I don't have it in front of me, but I could look at it, but I would like for Whitney to interject because this is not my project, to know what this is zoned, what could possibly be allowed there if you were to remove the conservation easement and move forward. But right now, as it stands, if I were a planner who's working on this project, who is submitting, and Neil would know, we're not allowed to, because of the conservation easement, to move forward. So there's the challenge that we have. Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, basically, it has no entitlements right now, right? So it has no value, nothing can be approved on it as of today. So the pre-application meeting would meet with staff, go through their proposal, and then they would basically ask what they want to have done on the property. And there's a lot of chess pieces here that are going to have to be negotiated between many different departments, it's sounding like. So as far as the basic request with staff, we would just analyze what they're requesting, and we would advise them on how to accomplish that by what applications need to be filed to get to that point, whether that's an initiation that comes back to the board, comp plan related, text amendments, things like that. Those are the things that we would have to work out the details on at that pre-application meeting. But a pre-application meeting is important because you can't file an application without having your pre-application meeting.
Attorney Stone.
Sure, and just to piggyback on what Whitney's saying, it would basically provide an avenue through which they would have to go, the processes they would have to follow in order to accomplish what their goal is, contingent upon the other dominoes that would also have to fall. So if they needed a comp plan amendment, speculatively, or zoning applications, those would also still remain contingent upon the board releasing and modifying conservation easements and any other, real estate related issues that may need to happen.
Madam Mayor?
Mr. Schiller.
Thank you. Related to the appraisal, if the county will accept it, we'll do the appraisal. So you don't have to go hire somebody. If the county will
I think
accept
from appraisal procedures, we have a procedure in place for appraisals.
Okay,
If you do one, we still have to do one. I mean,
I'm
the
just
county
saying,
has to
trying to
appraise
make it easy for everybody.
I appreciate that, but at the end of the day, the county is going to have to appraise the land, and the county will foot the bill for the appraisal.
Okay.
And it sounds like the appraisal is necessary to determine what can be done on that property, with all different variations.
And I just want to point out, like, there are tremendous value to a pre-application meeting other just learning the process. The staff will have an opportunity to interact with us and talk with us, which frankly we haven't had the opportunity to do yet. And so that is why that's the probative value of the pre-app meeting as far as we're concerned too.
Well, from that perspective, that's because there's no development rights on this property.
Understood, but I think the point is that we haven't had a conversation with your staff yet. We haven't been allowed to have a conversation with your staff yet as to what we're trying to propose. And that way they haven't vetted it yet and they can't give you any of the information because they haven't vetted it yet. So that's all we're asking for.
More lights on. Commissioner Woodward, then Commissioner Baxter, then Commissioner Flores.
Thank you, Mayor. So just to be clear, moving forward with the request today does not release anything. We are not saying there's no conservation easement. There's no change happening. I want to just double make sure.
Correct.
Okay. And I would encourage, if the board is, and it seems like we are, giving consensus to do this application meeting, I mean, I would like for everyone who has a part of this, every department that would have a part of this, to be a part of this discussion, so that when it comes back to us, we're not having another 5 meetings where we're like, okay, well, we got this close and then we need to talk about this. When this comes back to us, I would like for you to have done your due diligence, all staff, departments that need to weigh in on this, weigh in hard, because this is a controversial item that you're bringing to us. This is a big ask. And if we move forward to allow this, I want the next time it comes to us, you be able to answer all of these questions, which I know you can't answer now because there's no development rights. All of what has kept this conversation from happening. But I want the preserves protected. We follow the rules of the Ag Reserve. The swap is within the Ag Reserve, and there's requirements when you build here. Like there's a 60-40 split. There's other things we haven't even talked about on what may be required in here. Yeah. So all of that, I would like everyone, one big room, get lunch for the day, whatever. But when it comes back to us, I mean, you guys will have really hashed this out, because if we're going to keep doing this with the board back and forth, we're going to use a lot of time and it's not going to be productive. So everybody, all staff members, weigh in and come prepared to nail this out. If there's anything to be had, which I'm not sure there is, and I've told you that, if somehow you make something out of this, we'll see. But this is not a release of the conservation, and this is not a change of anything, just a way to move forward. So thank you.
Vice Mayor Baxter.
I'm just trying to, I don't know, wrap this up or clarify. So we have direction, we don't need motions, everyone's good?
Just to be clear on this direction, this is not the initiation of the amendment. Here, the board's point on a comprehensive review of it, working with the property owner and the applicant on it, return to you with the sorting of that information, then take your direction at that point on potentially bringing an application in for initiation. Because again, more trailing pieces on this, they would potentially be before you for initiation of a text amendment, and then the site-specific comprehensive plan amendments and the zoning application. But before even that point, if it's the board's point for us to assess it, working with the applicant on it, come back to you and address those points, but not initially in the context of initiating the comp plan amendment.
Sounds good, thank you.
Attorney Stone?
Just wanted to clarify, it may be semantics, but my understanding is once the pre-app occurs, that triggers the application process, correct?
No.
Okay, so they can be independent of the application process. All right. So this would be after the pre-app, but before any application is actually submitted. Because I want to make sure that we don't interrupt the application process and prematurely decide on it before it comes to the board.
Good point.
Patrick.
Mayor, if I could, what I'd say, again, to be super clear about this is outside the context of the amendment process at the moment. We're going to be returning to the board after a full evaluation with the property owner, returning to you for your direction.
Thank you. Commissioner Flores.
So since this is an applicant or third-party initiated process, and we do need an appraisal to understand the numbers, I would like for us to let them pay for the initial. We can use those numbers tentatively, and if for some reason, at some other later point in time, we decide that this is what we want to do, then we go and spend our dollars. But I don't think we should be, spending our dollars, the public's dollars, until we decide whether this is the right thing or not. We could use tentative numbers. I don't think it might be that far off, but we don't make an expense until we know whether this is viable or not. I mean, for all I'm hearing right now, this is barely getting by to that next meeting, and yet we're going to go spend on an appraisal where we could have them do one and then tentative on us, confirming that appraisal. So that's my 2 cents.
Sure.
May I?
Yes, ma'am.
Certainly can be done that way. I will caution that if that is the approach, staff is not in control as to the scope of the work that appraiser is doing. And therefore, the end result might be that we may have comments or questions on that appraisal, which we will then be the only tool we will have available to answer the questions of the board. So if the answer or the goal is for staff to be able to come back to this board with every piece of information on the table, and staff being able to stand behind what is being presented, my request as the person that oversees facilities development and real estate will be to allow us to do at least one appraisal where we engage with the appraisers that meet county certification requirements, and we can fully review the scope of work to be done, which we will do in coordination with the applicant, but just to make sure that we lead to a product that we can fully assess and recommend.
Howard.
My suggestion regarding the appraisal would be, obtaining the appraisal would be that we follow our normal processes, but we get Mr. Bowman to agree to reimburse us so that it's then our appraisal obtained our way.
Agreed.
Fine.
Okay. See, we all worked it out. Isn't that great? And it sounds like there is consensus from the board to move this forward with an appraisal. And I don't think we really need to. Commissioner Sachs, your light
I
is
just want
on.
to make sure the cinematics are correct, and I'm looking at Patrick Rutter now. So this is to give staff direction to hold a pre-application meeting so they can review the proposed project. And after the initial review, staff shall bring the proposed amendments back to the board for a non-binding determination of whether further resources should be allocated to review the proposal. If the board concurs, staff will proceed with a more detailed analysis of the proposed project.
So Commissioner, my understanding of the direction is this is our first step here. You're telling us to go work with the property owner, assess what they presented to you, work through an appraisal, come back to you, absent any applications for the time being. You will then tell us when we return to you with the information, go left, go right, do it this way, do it that way, or not, or go as is. Then that would, with the board direction, open the door. The board would want to contemplate releasing in some form or fashion the conservation easement. That would open the door to applications being submitted for text amendments and zoning applications. But this first step, the go or no go, is us working with the property owner, assessing it, returning to you. Then you make that next decision.
That's correct.
There's no application being put forward.
Correct.
This is an information gathering session.
Correct.
Okay. Just a quick question. What is the allowable density right now in the ag reserve?
The underlying density for property is 1 unit for every 5 acres.
And I know that we've done developments where we have affordable housing, so we went up to 8 units per acre.
Correct.
Okay. So just a quick note. This is looking at, for the townhomes, it's looking at 20 units per acre at 240 townhomes for 20 acres. Is that correct?
12.
12. I'm sorry, 12. My math is wrong. So we're going from 8 to 12 then for what we've done so far. And the only reason we did 8 was because it was workforce housing. So in essence, we're doing Okay, I'm mumbling, but I'm just looking at the amount of density right now, which is more than we've done on any other project in the Ag Reserve. Would that be correct?
That graphic shows net density, not gross density. So in the Ag Reserve, when we say 8 units per acre, it's over the entire area, the 40% development area and the 60% preserve. So I couldn't say that net density, I think the net density and reserve at Atlantic is higher because that's 8 units per acre on the 40 acres, and they clustered that onto 40%. So the net actually might be higher. This graphic is showing net density as 12 units per acre.
Okay, so when you come back, that will be a point of discussion also.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So you have your marching orders.
Madam Mayor, if I might, I'd just like to expand upon this a little bit. A lot of this discussion's been about the pre-application meeting. That is one component of this, but this is essentially a real estate transaction, which is why Isami and I are at the table. And this needs to be evaluated on a broader perspective than just the pre-application meeting perspective. We need to obtain values, which is why we're asking for appraisals. We need to evaluate the value of what we'd be giving up, the value of what we'd be receiving, and then come back to you and give you all that information.
Yeah.
Correct. So we're asking for. We want exactly comprehensive data on what is, was, and can be.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, Commissioner Weiss.
Just to clarify, Commissioner Woodward was really very clear, I think, in saying she wanted every department that might have any interest in this to opine on it for us. So I just reiterating, and I'm in 100% agreement with her.
Absolutely.
So to your point, Howard, or if I can call you Howard, appreciate it.
So it's as clear as mud. Commissioner Powell.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Include them, why not?
Since we're asking staff for quite a bit of work, can we, Dr. Collazo and the team, if y'all know now or you want to bring it back, do you know, and it sounds like a lot, a time frame in terms of when you anticipate this would come back before the board? We're talking about appraisals, we're talking about the cost-benefit analysis of what the land is, what it was, what we may have lost, conservation easement-wise. There's a lot. You're talking about potential entitlements.
4 months.
What's a realistic time frame? And if you don't know now, I understand because, but we would.
Thank you, Commissioner, because yes, there's a lot that will go into this. I can't anticipate anything earlier than July.
Thank you.
Thank you. So again, yes, make it comprehensive. All right. Thank you very
so much. Thank you.
Thanks.
All righty. So we're at the end of our regular agenda, but because we are going to, I don't want staff to leave just yet because I know that normally we do the comments. So from this portion of the agenda, let's go ahead and have our planning director. Any comments?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Zoning director?
Yes, well, is it still morning? No, good afternoon. I would like to have a shout out at this moment for Carlos Torres. Carlos is leaving us for another department. It's, as we talked about last month, it's very challenging to get us here every month to bring your packet, to get the zoning commission. We have a lot of unbelievably talented staff. Carlos is an architect. He's been with PZB for 10 years. He's going to have fun at the Parks Department and not have to be here every month, even though he loves being here, I'm sure. I do. But I just wanted that shout out today. Thank you very much.
Carlos, thank you for everything. And since you're staying within the family, at least anytime I think you need him, you can just call him, right? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Anything else, Lisa? Whitney?
Thank you. Thank you, Carlos. Yeah, we are sad to see you go. I just wanted to give you an update on the milestone inspection reports. So we sent the letters out that we talked about a couple months ago. Those that have not been able or have not replied, we're at about 86 that are still non-compliant. And so we are going to be referring those to code compliance and going through the process with those. And I'll get you an updated list for each district just to see which ones in your district are non-compliant. And then we also have on the Phase 2 reports 29 that are non-compliant. So we're working through those. And then we've we're launching a milestone inspection website or dashboard, I guess it's called, to give you information on which units are in compliance, which ones are going to needing to come into compliance at some point, but we have 673 condo buildings in the county that are under this inspection procedure process. So just wanted to let you know about that. And then also the Ag Reserve workshop that we wanted to bring back to you on the items that you'd asked us to bring back. We talked about bringing those back April 24th. We are working, as you see, a lot of our resources are encumbered right now, but we're working diligently to try to get that inventory done and be back to you by May 13th. That's a comprehensive plan meeting, and we'll bring that back then, and we'll have the full discussion on the Ag Reserve, the inventory, and all those things.
And when you had 673, those are just units that are in unincorporated Palm Beach County.
Correct. Yes, thank you for clarifying. Yes, buildings, yes.
Yeah, because there's a lot like in Boca, and Jupiter, and Tequesta that are incorporated, and they have their own.
You're right. Yes, correct.
Their own procedure. All right. So it is 12:06. I think we've finished the regular part of the agenda. We'll come back at 1:15, and then we will take up the workshop portion of our agenda. So we are adjourned until 1:15. Thank you very much.